Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the WVU post-game show here on the Voice of College Football. I'm Greg Crist, joined by uh, Jackson Johnson to my right, looking over my right shoulder, and Frank Fear over that way. So,
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here
guys,
somewhere.
always, yeah, Frank, you switch sides on me. It really gets me confused.
Yeah, I didn't expect to.
Well, guys, it's always nice to jump on here after a win, and today was no exception. A good win, I thought. I thought we played well, and I tell you what, at times we look like a really good football team, Frank.
Yeah, it was Jackson and I were talking before we went on air, and it was a ho hum game, great outcome, and we know who the go to guy in terms of the receivers. Hudson Clement had a great game,
No, yep,
and
great
made a
hands.
couple of good possession receiver, and we
Yep.
needed the win. We're both eligible now, have a chance to finish off at 7-5. But I think that what it does more than anything else is get us that 6 win and stops the bleeding and take a big deep breath now and get ready to go to Lubbock.
Yep, and you always want to get bowl eligible. That helps.
Oh,
Comment.
don't say that. Don't say that. It's no okay golf. Don't say that.
God,
He loves West Virginia in his own way.
Oh yeah. There's another comment. Neil Brown needs to go to. This doesn't change anything. Well, uh, you know, uh, I thought today showed really what kind of team we can be, and you know, uh, you watch our defense. I didn't feel like our defense was great, but they were okay. I thought our offense did what we said they needed to do, and that was to come out and establish the run game, pass when we needed to, and I think we pretty much did that. We really in the first half, our run game was phenomenal, and we controlled that first half just because of that. And but I think you see glimpses here of a team that could really be. And I've said all year we're that close to being really, really good. And unfortunately, we run out of games to play. Jackson, what's your thoughts on this?
I got a little worried about the Mountaineers for a little bit, especially when we saw Central Florida scoring their first touchdown. I was like, oh no, are we seeing some of the same things that we've seen all year from the Mountaineers?
Yeah.
But fortunately, this was one of the good days for West Virginia.
And I hate to be the negative Nancy, but with a lot of people calling for Neil Brown's job and that sort of thing. I think part of what causes that, if you think in the last 3.5, 4 minutes of the game, we had just gotten a first down, and we were eating the clock up, and we pass on first down, get sacked, and now it's 2nd and 14. Then you go down to that last drive. All we have to do is run some clock again, maybe kick a field goal, whatever you do, and again we throw the ball, and stop the clock for them, give them an extra timeout. It worked out okay, but if that backfires on you, then you got to answer for that, and that was a strange decision. Even the broadcaster said a little surprised they threw the ball right there. Very strange decision to just not run it, make them use their last time out, and then try to eat up the clock. So those are the kind of things I think that come back, to haunt him. I think we've seen that, several times throughout the last 5-6 years that kind of thing has happened, and that's something that you just can't do. You got to be better clock manager than that, and I think that's kind of one of the things that comes out that people will talk about against him, as far as that's concerned. And I'm not criticizing. I'm trying not to criticize. I just thought it was strange. I'd like to hear his explanation of why he threw the ball right there. Not being critical. I've supported and it's up to me whether it gets fired or not. But when I see things like that, I just want to know, what was your mindset on that right there? Do you think he's going to fool him? What's going on with that?
Well, at least the Mountaineers went out with a bang. If this is Neil Brown's final home game as head coach, then the Mountaineers went out with a bang.
Yep.
But I will say, because I talked with Frank off air just a little bit before the show started, is we talked a little bit about Malzahn possibly being a hot seat coach for 2025.
Yeah,
because
sure is.
Yeah, because the Knights have gotten their hopes up. They thought they were going to be what SMU is in the ACC, but in the Big 12. And so far, they have not had a good experience in the Big 12. And as I said with last week for West Virginia, do they want to be a 7-win team or a Big 12 title contender? That's the same question for Central Florida. Are they just going to be happy being a 6-7-win team, or do they want to be a Big 12 title contender?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I understand that he is under some pressure down there. Still a little bit of heat, understandably. And again, I think we all want to be contenders in the Big 12. West Virginia, I'm sure, does. And nobody's happy, I don't think, with 6-5, including the coaching staff. I don't think they're happy with that. But I think there's some positive signs, and there's some hope, and I like I said, it's not up to me if they fire him or keep him, but at least you feel better after a win like this, where we pretty much had the game in control from the get-go. It gives you a little bit of confidence, a little bit of faith in them that they are headed in the right direction. We can only hope. But if they don't get a win next week, then that to me says a whole lot. So we'll see. Frank, your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, it's I'm caught, and we've talked about the head versus the heart. Obviously, most of us want the Mountaineers to win. I know there were some who thought, well, let's get this over with, and we'll lose the last 2 games, and Brown will be gone. But that today's game was a tough watch, and again, it's the lack of consistency. And you know what was running through everybody's minds when they scored that touchdown, when they came back a bit, and you're saying to yourself, boy, in your own mind, I could see a situation with an onside kick and a quick touchdown and a pass. The difference today really was UCF. The quarterback play was well below average. They did not complement the run with the pass, and so as a consequence, they really weren't a threat long. And so our defensive backs got relief today that they haven't gotten in a few of the other games. So I think my conclusion, guys, is we won the game, but the same questions are there, and I'm not sure anything has changed much. The blood pressure may go down, I think, maybe a bit on the fan base, but I'm not sure if it's going to go down significantly, because again, we scored quickly, we looked sharp, but we've done that in multiple games. And then after that, they were coming down and they were going to score the same that's happened. And then they fumbled. That was a difference between, and we were lucky in that regard with the interception at Cincinnati versus what happened against, say, Baylor. So anyway, it's tough, but we won. That's the most important thing.
Yep. I think you're right. I don't think it's going to calm too many people down that wants rid of him. I think they've made their minds up. There's a WU fan with a good comment. Can tell you what makes you happier: a WU win or Pitt losing by 37-9.
Yeah, boy, that shows you how important the quarterback position is. So they just can't do it now.
No. I'll take both of these, please. That sounds good to me. I think you're right. I think we still see some of the same trends, that we've been seeing. And watching our defense, they didn't. We didn't stop the run too well. They ran the ball pretty effectively, but I did feel like we didn't sack their quarterback a lot, but we did get some pressures on him. We did make him run around a little bit. And he just didn't throw the ball well, or maybe that's how good he really is. But I thought our defensive line, as far as the pass was concerned, did a little better this week. I felt like our run defense wasn't quite as good. And that back is he's a really good back. Well, both our backs are really good. And what I saw more than anything was missing tackles. I thought that we had him corralled a few times and let him slip out there and pick up 10 or 12. But I thought our defense played respectable. The offense again was good, not great. I thought in the first half where we ran the ball was great, but we can't seem to sustain that for very long. And,
That's right.
Yep, that's tough. So you do see some of the same trends, but like you said, we won the game, and that's what's important.
And it looks like Texas Tech is going to pull out the game against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State did a really good job. Again, a high-scoring game. It's 56-48, Tech over Oklahoma State at Stillwater with about a minute and change left. And Texas Tech is on their own 23. It looks like, and I think this WVU Fan 13, who's always insightful. We appreciate everybody. Good comments, all. But it's true. I mean, as sort of average WVU looks like, if the Mountaineers had beaten Kansas State, Iowa State, or Baylor, just one of those, we'd be right in the thick of things because the leaders both lost today, and Kansas State and Iowa State have hit hard times. Yeah, that's right.
Yep. Arizona State beat BYU and Colorado lost. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Be first. Yeah, and
wow,
hard to imagine it.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
I wonder if we had won a game and was going to the championship, if we'd still be talking about firing Neil Brown, probably.
Yeah. Here's Kelly with the final score. And BYU was going to pull a Utah on Arizona State. They got the ball after the quarterback for Arizona State. There was a problem on the play. The running back went to the wrong side of the quarterback, so the quarterback ran to the right and hesitated, and then he got caught. And BYU took over at about the 5 yard line because Arizona State was going in to score, and then moved the ball down the field, but then threw an interception, and that was that. So that's boy, I'll tell you, what a crazy league. I'll tell you.
Yeah, the bad thing about that is, and I've already heard them talking about it on some of the shows today. Well, the Big 12 may not end up with anybody in that top 5 or top whatever it is, and so that's the only bad thing about these teams losing. I mean, I don't want any of them to win, but for the conference's sake, you'd like to see somebody, have a good year, just for the national perspective. I think we're already kind of looked down upon anyway, and but again, I see that as a very competitive conference. They talk about if it happens in the SEC. Well, all these SEC teams are good and they beat up on each other. Well, why can't the Big 12 be good and beat up on each other like the SEC and the Big 10 do? But yeah, I think it hurts us a little bit on the national, as far as the national perspective is concerned.
Yeah, it does. It does. You think about Arizona State, Jackson. We were talking about this before we went on air. Arizona State was picked by many magazines and services to finish last in the Big 12, and there they are, probably going to get into the championship. And as people were talking today, I think it may have been even in the on our broadcast on ESPNU. It's a hard case to say the hottest team in the Big 12 is anything other than Kansas. They've beaten 3 ranked teams in a row when they were inventing ways to lose games, including in Morgantown. It's incredible, Jackson. I mean, how do you predict? You can't make this stuff up.
No. As saying goes, truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we expected, from Kansas at the beginning. We thought they were going to be pretty good, and they come out and looked horrible for the first few weeks, and now they're looking like we thought they were going to look, And go ahead, Jack.
And a stat that I just saw from Kansas is they're the first FBS team with a losing record to win 3 straight games against ranked foes. That's huge. So they're basically just playing spoiler. And somebody in the chat said that West Virginia has a slim chance at getting into Big 12 still. I mean, of course, they beat Texas Tech. They're good to go. They may need Utah to pull off an upset over Iowa State. I mean, I don't know if it could happen, but they say never.
Wouldn't that be something after all this?
Maybe Black Friday magic could happen. We don't know.
You never know. You never know. Oh, I think that would be interesting if that did happen. It'd be interesting what the conversations would be, and I'd like to know. Here we go with HR picking stuff with a comment. Arizona State has a whole new coaching staff. It took them 1 year to hit the 9-win plateau. You either have the right coaching staff or you don't.
Yeah, well, and also what helps, and we were talking about this before the show, Sam Livet was the quarterback for Michigan State last year. And with the new staff coming in from Oregon State, he decided to leave, went to Arizona State, and he, I think, maybe more than anything else, has made that team go. I was impressed. He didn't play a lot at Michigan State last year, but I saw him. You could see he throws a sweet ball. He's a good leader. And what I mean by that, he's a coach on the field. I mean, that play that cost them the first down, he went right after the running back who made the mistake. He's a good guy to have on your team. Smart, really smart. So yeah, the coaching staff. But as we're seeing, if you don't have a quarterback, Pitt's another example of that. How they've fallen flat. But so, what's the answer to this question, guys?
I have been in agreement with that. I'm not a big fan of the head coach, trying to call the plays. I think there's so much more stuff going on that the head coach has to deal with, and I think that if you take that off his hands and you put it upstairs where somebody can see it from afar, see things develop, see something might work, have time to think about it a little bit more. I think that the head coach on the sideline struggles with that. You don't see too many of them that are real good at that. And I think he struggles with it. And I think just like I was talking about earlier on that last drive, why we ever threw the ball there on first down, I don't know. But I think that, again, comes with, just so many things going on that it's hard to, it's hard to focus and think clearly on a lot of this stuff. I'm sure you get hurried, you get sped up a little bit, you get a little rattled, and you make some strange calls. And I've been in favor of him giving up the play calling all along.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when Neil Brown wasn't doing the play calling, it worked out very well, specifically against Kansas in Week 4, especially with that game-winning drive by Garrett Green and friends, getting that touchdown, like just making that comeback in the fourth quarter. It was just huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, and I saw another comment about there. We tried it with Graham Harrell, but what I'm saying is don't turn it over to me. Don't let me be the play caller. Let one of your best offensive coaches be the play caller.
Yeah.
I'm not saying just turn it over to be turning it over. You give it somebody that's competent and let them take care of it. I think you're so much better off. And I think sometimes even with clock management, I think it gets, when you're having to do all those things, some of that stuff really can get away from you. And you've got so many other responsibilities down on the field to deal with and to think about, to call, we're going for it, we're not going for it, et cetera, that, that can get tough. And, I'm not blaming him for, I guess I am, for some of these bad play calls, but I think that's a product of, the head coach calling the plays. I think you're going to get some of those. And we see it happen all the time, not just West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we see that happen in all kinds of football games where you'll get a weird play call and you're like, what in the world are they thinking right there? And I mean, it's happened several times this year where that's all they talked about on the radio the next day in pro football too. What kind of play call was that on fourth down? And why didn't you just do this and eat the clock, and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, it's got to be a tough thing to do.
Yeah. One of the things we had going for us today is,
Yeah, I was going to say, Frank, I only have
I was
experience
going to say,
doing that in middle school football, but we were a powerhouse when I was coaching at Anstead Middle, and I called my own plays. So I'd be available if Neil Brown would want me, but I don't really think that'd be a good idea.
there you go. Well, you know, one of the things that helped us enormously today is a UCF turned out to be a one-dimensional team. You look at R.J. Harvey's numbers; they had 176 yards rushing total. He had 130 of them. 8 yards a carry, 28 long, not that great, but he also caught a pass for. Let me see, what was it here? Well, it dropped off here, but there it is for 19 yards. So he basically had 150 yards for that team. And if you look at the team stats, they only had 350 yards total. And so Harvey really was the heartbeat of that. And again, we had a situation where the other team outgained West Virginia. We had 318 yards, only 118 yards passing. And of the 118 yards passing, Hudson Clement had 81 of those. And so I think what we had here was West Virginia running with the three guys that do the running, one guy catching the ball for pretty much. And on the other side, you had R.J. Harvey. It's just it was who's going to outlast the other. And I never got the impression, you and I talked about this last week, we didn't have the feeling, even when West Virginia against Baylor scored on that terrific last play that could have gone either way before the half, that they were going to come back and win in the second half. Tonight, I never had the feeling that UCF was going to be able to come back, that this game was going back and forth, could be a slugfest, but that West Virginia had the upper hand. Did you guys feel that way too? Or not?
Yes, I did for sure. I never felt like we were going to lose. I thought we were able to move the ball well enough, and like you said, they had become one-dimensional on offense, and running the ball every time, having difficulty throwing it. I just felt like they weren't built, to come back from a deficit like they were in. We were talking about the same thing last night. In the high school game that I did, the team that Oak Hill was playing ran the wing T. And once Oak Hill got up 13-0, we basically said this game's over because they're not built to score quick and to come back, from a deep hole. And that's what happens. And with UCF today, you just felt like, the only way they can move the ball is running it, and they're going to run out of time. That's kind of the way I felt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it is. And it's going to be a taller order in Lubbock. They're right in the middle of everything, first of all. But we're not going to face a one-dimensional team there, and they can score points. And our defense is going to have to defend, and that almost goes without saying because it's been the way it has been all season. It's a killer instinct that says we are Ohio State. At the early part of that game, it looked like Indiana was going to basically hang tough, and then that flipped on a dime, and Ohio State wanted to show they're still Ohio State, and Indiana's a wannabe. I like. Let me see. Let me get the other. Let me see. I thought I had another one up here. Point here. I can't find it.
All Indiana really has to do is smack Purdue off the face of the earth, and they're in the playoff.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah,
probably right. Yeah, I don't see them dropping out. That's after the season they've had, but I think everybody's kind of felt like all year. Well, let's play somebody good, and then we'll decide. Mentioning using the tight end and the running game.
Yeah,
I agree with that. It seemed like in a lot of games, we gave up on that run game too soon. Today it seemed like we stuck with it pretty well. I was curious though. I didn't know if C.J. Donaldson got hurt or what, but it seemed like he was out for an awful long time until the last couple of series. If he wasn't hurt, then I don't understand that because he was running like a man bad in that first half. But he may have gotten shaken up and just was out for a while. I don't know what happened there, but he really had a good game that first half, and then didn't see much until the end of the game. So,
yeah,
I agree. I think we need to use our tight ends and running backs. That should have been a strength for us, and should have done that all year. You're right. I thought Taylor was a little more involved today, but that's something that I'm sure hindsight's 20/20, and game situations dictate a lot of things, so you don't really know. And to me, I don't know what should work, what shouldn't work. I'm sitting at home watching on TV, so but you would think with our big tight end and those good running backs that would have been a strength of ours, and we would have used it more.
Yeah. One of the things that Coach Brown talked about, he was concerned about, I didn't see much out there. I don't know if you guys did. What he was concerned about was the quarterback basically throwing lateral passes and using the perimeter on the passing game to get our defensive backs and linebackers off to the perimeter, and then quickly switching for Harvey up the middle. And I didn't think they used that. In fact, their best receiver didn't have Kobe Hudson had 2 receptions. Now, 34 yards, 68 yards with a long of 45. But Jacoby Jones, 2 for 21. They just didn't seem to have the receiving core or the design wasn't for them to hurt us. And it's really difficult, sitting, as you were saying, Greg, we're just sort of watching the game, that if anybody's watched films on West Virginia, you attack the secondary. You stretch and you try to get players in the wrong lanes, in the wrong positions, schematics as you talk about it. And I didn't see UCF doing that much at all. It was sort of like they were playing their game, and which I think helped us a lot.
Yeah, I do too. And I was thinking that during the game. I'm like, wonder why they're not throwing the ball a little bit more. That kid can throw it okay, but they were only throwing it in obvious situation. So twisted ankle, he's fine. I guess that's CJ Dawson.
There's your answer.
Yep. Yeah. I was happy they weren't throwing it. I felt like if they kept running it, we had to leave. That was going to eat clock, and
that's right.
We were doing okay against it. That guy got loose on us a few times, but we were handling them pretty well. And I was kind of thankful that they didn't start throwing the ball, because how it is, sit there and watch us play defense in that secondary. Sure, it's frustrating when somebody starts throwing it around on us, and they never did really, try to take advantage of our secondary. And I was pleasantly surprised, I might say.
Yeah, well, and they clearly have a quarterback problem. I mean, for having 4 quarterbacks is having none. And
right.
I don't know. I've never been a Gus Malzahn fan, and I was a bit surprised when UCF went after him. And I think you're right, Jackson. I think if he's not, football is more important, obviously, at some schools than others. But at UCF, they built that school on strong academics and football. That's basically what they've done, and they've gone from 0 to 60, from no football program at all to major college status. And they'll there's no question. I don't see where a lot of wins are going to come from. I just don't.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, and they're down there in the hotbed, so to speak, in Florida, and they've got to compete with Florida State, Miami, Florida, excuse me, to get recruits, and that's tough. And they obviously they go for him again because of that name recognition. I think West Virginia fans are about that bad about that as well. I know even I am a little bit. I know I always hear, well, we got this guy out of the portal. He's from Ohio State. Well, you instantly think because he's from Ohio State, he's going to be really, really good. And don't always work out that way. And I think they kind of went for him, based on the name recognition thing, making the big splash with the name. But yeah, I don't know either. And they're in to me, they're in a tough spot there to try to compete with all those big time players to get players at their school. I mean, it's going to be tough to do. I don't know what advantages they have to offer over, say a Florida State or a Miami or a Florida. I don't know what the recruiting pitch is to get them there, but I just see that as a difficult spot to be in.
That is, and Jackson, I think about with Alabama playing Oklahoma, there's a lot to be said about thinking twice about, and I don't mean to be negative by calling these guys recycled coaches, but if you look at the situation, this is not a good Oklahoma team. I don't think they're particularly well coached they've had serious quarterback problems. But look at what's happening at North Carolina now. They seem to have really. Who did they lose to today? They lost to
Boston
a team.
College.
Boston College, and Boston College lost their first-string quarterback too. And Oklahoma, man, they were beaten like a drum against Texas. Texas obviously is a good team, but a very good team. But you've got a situation where these guys come back, big name, but don't necessarily bring wins with them, and that includes national championship coaches like Mac Brown, who won a national championship at Texas. So I don't know. I would be absolutely shocked if Oklahoma came anywhere near to Alabama tonight. That seems like a mismatch. Your take?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if we see the conversation of Brent Venables' seat being scorching hot in Norman. But I mean, at the same time, I can see where it's similar to his former boss, Dabo Sweeney, after 2010, where it's like, oh, fire this guy. And the AD's like, look, I know everybody's telling me to fire you, but I want stability. Let's make this thing work. I could see that being the discussion in Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, they're just not going to tolerate it. What do you think about this question? Texas Tech scored 56. We're playing them at home. They've got a chance to play in the conference championship. What do you think the spread? I'll tell you what I think, but why don't one of you guys go first?
I think it's going to be probably 7.5 to 10.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more like 3.5.
Really? I'm thinking 10.5. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a great question, but actually it's a statement and a question. But I think we know the answer to the question. I mean, after he won 2 in a row, if Nico was going to play, he would have played somewhere last week and certainly this week. But I think one statement that Neil Brown made at a press conference sticks with me, and that is he made the comment along the lines of, we're doing what we're doing for Garrett Green now, and you have to fill in the blank if he's still here. Nico will get the same treatment when he becomes a starter. And I think what that does is just reinforce we don't replace people willy-nilly. We don't replace people if they're injured. And yet, that's a preference, a philosophy that some coaches have and some don't. And that's a lot of passing yards to give up against Oklahoma State.
A ton of passing yards.
Yeah, it's 500 yards altogether. Yeah, that's amazing. Let me look and see who was behind the controls for Oklahoma State. I don't know if it's the same.
I don't think this game will be a lot different than any other game we played in. I think, we'll come out and try to establish the run, which helps our passing game. And, one thing I'll say about West Virginia, whether Nico's in there or Garrett Green's in there, it doesn't matter. We're not afraid to throw the ball.
That's right.
We'll throw it around quite a bit. And so hopefully Garrett Green's on and because he's going to play. I mean, he's going to start, and unless he's hurt. And he don't throw the ball terribly bad. I mean, on his shorter routes, typically he's good, and if he's not moving, he's pretty good. He has a little trouble with accuracy on the long pass, but if we get that running game going, which it looks like we should be able to,
Mhm.
then the passing game will follow. And I
Yeah.
think that's got to be our philosophy going in. Not plan on going in and
Mhm.
trying to pass for 350 yards. I don't know that we're going to
Mhm.
be able to do that. So it'll be interesting to see what how we come out in it. But again, I think we're going to have to establish that running
Yeah.
game as always.
Well, what's interesting about Oklahoma State guys is that they played a true freshman today, Maluaki Smith. I hope I pronounced that right. Going into the game today, he had 103 yards with no touchdowns and one interception. And today he was 26 for 36 for 326 yards, as was pointed out, 2 TDs, an interception. And Ollie Gordon came alive, 15 carries, 156 yards, 10 yards a carry. But, if you look at Texas Tech, they've got a good quarterback. We faced them last year. Let me see if I can just get this, get the stats on him. Come on.
Bayron Morton.
Yep. Yeah. Morton, I'm almost positive he played last year, 35 for 50. So they throw the ball a lot for 366, a lot of short stuff, 7.3 yards, 4 yards a carry. And they got Taj Brooks. We remember him, 28 carries, 133 yards, 5 yards a carry. And on the receiving side, Caleb Douglas, 105 yards on 5 catches, 21 yards. They had 4 receivers today that caught a pass for at least 25 yards. And it looks like Taj Brooks is the guy that carries the load. And then Bayron Morton is a good quarterback. Let's see if we can find what his quarterback rating is. 52.7, 82nd in the country. So he's not the top tier quarterback as we faced, but he's good, and they're playing at home, and they've got something to play for. So it's they've got it's going to put pressure on our defense again.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question, and we've been playing that three-man front to I think help our defensive backs a little bit. I don't think you'll see that change either. We'll have to do something to to combat that passing, and that's worrisome for us the way our secondary's played this year. That's kind of scary when you're going up against a strong passing team, and like I said, I'm sure we're going to see that three-man front defense, so that we got some help back there for the secondary. You just hope we can again contain them, and control the ball on offense. And it does sound like there's an opportunity there for us to offensively, control the game, control the tempo, chew up clock and that sort of thing to keep our offense off the field. The opportunity looks like it's there because of their defense, and our offense has been playing pretty decent. Again, we haven't been overly explosive, but we've been playing good enough. We've put points on the board. I mean, that's 35 and 31 the last 2 weeks. That's not bad.
No.
And so our offense is playing good enough, I think. So our defense is going to have to again step up, apply some pressure, and help our defensive backs out a little bit. And I think I don't know. I'm going to name names or numbers or anything like that, but it appears to me that most of these teams have done enough film study, obviously, and they found a weakness back there in that defensive backfield, and they really do pick on that spot a lot. And I think somehow we got to get that kid some help over there. He struggled a lot back there. And I think they find him and they go at him, and I'm afraid Texas Tech will do that. So we got to get some help back there for him, and that help comes from defensive line.
Yeah, that's right. That as I think about the Tech game, the one good thing for us, it's on the road. We play better, it seems, on the road, and it's we beat Baylor. Of course, they weren't a very good team last year in the last game on the road. And what I thought today, I don't know what you guys think. I thought that the game plan against Baylor had Green running a lot more than we saw him today. It seemed to be more restrained. I felt the game plan with Garrett Green was a little more restrained on the running side. He did run, but not as much as I thought. I remember against Baylor, and I think he's going to have to really let it all hang out against Texas Tech. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that. Is it possible for us to do to them what we did at Oklahoma State? Maybe not, but I'll tell you that game plan would go a long way toward giving us a chance to win there. I mean, you got to run, you got to use the clock, and that also means you keep your defense, particularly the backside, off the field.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought that when the game first started today, I thought we were going to get a heavy dose of Green because he ran several times on that first drive and the second drive. And then after that, seemed like it was kind of restricted just a little bit. So he played better today, I think, of what he did last week. He's still not quite there. It still seems like he's a little bit hesitant on what he's doing. It just seems like he just hesitates just a bit. He runs when he should pass when he should run. He did that a couple times today, not as bad as last week. So he's getting better. But, yeah, I think the game plan, like you said, because they're not great at stopping the pass or the run. So you give him the option right there, to pass or run, and you hope he makes the right decisions. And I think that'll be pivotal. He's got to make the right decision, whether the pass or run. You give him that option, and he's got to take what's open. So hopefully he'll be on his game, and that'll all work out. But I still think it's going to come down to our defense because we're scoring enough and we're possessing the ball enough. But we got to get stops on defense. That's for sure.
Jackson, go ahead.
If West Virginia can put a stop to Texas Tech's offense, then the Red Raiders are going to be in big trouble because, as you gentlemen said, the defense of the Red Raiders is a complete and total disaster. It is a huge mess, especially when they've allowed so many points, including in today's game against Oklahoma State. And it's just not good for Texas Tech. And let's be real. Texas Tech is basically a team that's lived off of past glories from the Mike Leach era. It's like they are completely screwed if they have to rely on their defense.
I'm looking at the scores. They won their first game 52-51 in overtime. The opposition was Abilene Christian. Washington State beat them, scored 37 points. North Texas scored 21. Arizona State 22, Cincinnati 41, Arizona 22, Baylor 59, TCU 35, and Iowa State 22, Colorado 41, and now today Oklahoma State 48. What fascinates me, and you're an SEC follower, Jackson, we were talking before, Greg, before we came on air, that maybe it's not so much of a mystery that BYU and Iowa State are a little bit on thin ice. They were living at the edge, and got by a couple games. That was a miracle for BYU. If you saw the game for BYU to beat Utah at Utah, Utah had them dead to rights, and they got a couple breaks on calls and won with a field goal. But what's amazing to me, and why I bring up the SEC, these teams that were left for, I don't want to say dead, but they were at the side of the road, Kansas and Florida. Did anyone see that coming, that Florida was going to be able to start winning after looking so – I mean, I live in Fort Myers part of the year, and the papers down there just sort of – it was almost like this team is barely alive kind of thing. Of course, Florida State is worse. But what's your take on Florida? How are they doing what they're doing?
Vote of confidence and relying on DJ Lagway. Because, I mean, when they had Graham Mertz as their starting quarterback, they were doing nothing, zero, zilch.
See, it's quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, when they had DJ Lagway step up after Mertz got hurt, things have gotten really better in Gainesville. And that vote of confidence in Billy Napier, I think that's helped the team as well. I mean, the fact that they've smacked LSU last Saturday and the fact that they've upset the Ole Miss Rebels, potentially knocked them out of playoff contention,
That's right.
that has helped this team greatly. And now Florida is one of 74 teams in all college football that has clinched bowl eligibility. And of course, the West Virginia Mountaineers are also, with today's win against Central Florida, one of 74 teams in all college football got their bowl eligibility streak going. 8 more teams have to fill the slots. And if all the slots aren't filled, it's going to be based off the APR rankings. And if Northwestern was to upset Illinois next Saturday, they could get in a bowl.
That's right.
Be like, why are you in? We made good grades. Who says we can't get in good grades?
Yeah, that point you made about Billy Napier is important because can you imagine the pressure on the administration to fire him? Football is really obviously important in Gainesville, but they said we're going to keep him. And those two, as you say, those two changes make a big difference. Those, a new quarterback and a vote of confidence in the coach can make a big difference. At least for Florida, it is. And now, Greg, Kansas is playing like we thought Kansas was going to play from the get-go. And look at them now.
Yep.
I mean, they did it today.
Oh, yeah. And while you was reading those Texas Tech scores, I couldn't help but to think that, man, they're playing in the old Big 12. This is the new Big 12. In fact, somebody actually plays defense, but I don't know if that's the case or not. But those scores that they gave up, points they gave up, definitely sound like old Big 12 numbers, no defense and all offense. But again, I think that's why it's so important that our defense play well next week. And we're probably not going to shut them down. We're not going to hold them to 14, so we're going to have to score. And hopefully our offense can keep clicking and put 35, 40 points on the board. That should be enough, but you never know, And with the numbers that they've been giving up and the numbers they score, the defense has got to get some stops. And I don't know how they're going to get them, when they're going to get them, but somewhere along the way they got to get a few. And but you don't want to put, we talked about this in the pregame, you don't want to put our offense in a situation where they feel like they've got to score every single time, because then they seem like they press a little bit and are unsuccessful. Today it seemed like they're a little bit more relaxed, just went out and played. And Garrett Green was the same way, converted on a couple of big fourth down passes and that sort of thing. So, our effort was a little better. But yeah, we've got to find some stops against Tech for sure.
Yeah, absolutely correct. I just was checking. I didn't think the game time has been set yet, and it hasn't. And it probably won't be until tomorrow afternoon. But whether that'll be a night game or not, I'm looking at. Let me look at what the games are for next week, and that'll be interesting.
Arizona State, Baylor, Kansas. Black Friday is Utah, Central Florida, and Oklahoma State, Colorado.
Yeah. The game that stands out is Kansas State, Iowa State. That's a good game. The rest, it's tough to say. There's really a marquee game next week. It's not Oklahoma State, Colorado. It's not Utah, UCF. It's not Houston, BYU. No, I don't think it's Arizona State, Arizona. I think it's Kansas State, Iowa State. Kansas Baylor is going to be good now all of a sudden, because going to your point a few minutes ago, Jackson, Kansas, believe it or not, will be bowl eligible if they win. Kansas will be bowl eligible 6-6 if they beat Baylor. TCU has come back a bit, but they're never in the conversation. And I think West Virginia, Texas Tech is probably up there with the Kansas State, Iowa State, Kansas, Baylor, West Virginia, Texas Tech look to be the three games. And so if you think about one of them at noon, one of them at 3:30, and one of them at night, it would be interesting to see how it is. We'll know tomorrow. Look at this. That was a nail biter. Penn State.
Yep.
You never take Minnesota seriously at Minnesota, and you really should.
Penn State, they faked a punt late in the game and picked up up not only first down but about 30 yards to boot, and that sealed the game for them. So they were going to give the ball back to Minnesota with a 1-point lead, but they faked that punt. Good call. If we get a lead, Texas Tech sitting on the lead will not work with it. No, I don't think you can let up because they score points. Yeah, too many points, too fast. You gotta keep the pressure on.
Keep that Tech offense off as much as possible.
Yeah.
But if you guys just slow that game down for them, do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. Again, your best defense is a ball control offense. Yeah.
Yep. We just gotta move it down the field, run it, be methodical, and like I said, eat clock, limit their possessions, and hopefully you get a stop or two along the way. And but I don't think you need to at any point let up and try to get conservative. I think you gotta keep the gas pedal down against a team that scores so easily like they do so quickly. I apologize for all this hacking and coughing. Been fighting this cough.
No, don't worry.
Yeah, it just yeah.
I try to mute right before I do it, but sometimes it sneaks up on me.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's we're trying to look at the big games next week, top 25. A lot of rivalry games like Purdue, Indiana, Notre Dame, USC, but that's sort of a rivalry out of the past. I don't see a lot of Michigan, Ohio State, but what a difference a year makes, right? I mean, Michigan is just. I mean, they blew out Northwestern today, but they're hanging by they're 6-5. So South Carolina, Clemson.
Oh yeah, I mean that looks like a playoff at large second round game.
What's that?
Clemson, South Carolina looks like a playoff second round at large game.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's like a few people screaming for South Carolina, and there's a lot of people screaming for Clemson.
Mm-hmm. What about these games? Do you think Syracuse, which is 8-3 now, has enough to give Miami any trouble? The game's up in the game's up in Syracuse.
It could happen. I would not be surprised if Fran Brown gets that team going against Miami.
Oh. And then another one is Texas and Texas A&M. That when I was growing up, when we were growing up, Greg, that was a Thanksgiving Day game. But now it's played on Saturday. But they're playing does Texas A&M have a chance against Texas? Do you think?
Oh, they got to get through Auburn first because they're losing to them right now.
Yep.
Really? Oh my God! I tell you,
7-0.
That game's at Auburn, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think. Yeah. I mean, Auburn is just tough.
But Auburn, knowing them, they'll just find a way to blow it.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's the hard thing for me. It always seems we were talking about what if. That's right. WVU football has been detrimental on my blood pressure for the last few years. Yeah,
had no mine too.
Yeah, I don't. And the point that was brought up too, and we brought it up a bit. We'll do a deep dive soon. The signing date is coming up in a matter of just 10 days, I think.
Yeah.
And West Virginia is doing pretty good in the low 30s, which is not bad for West Virginia historically. But we'll see. Then the portal opens right after that. So one of the big questions is how many guys that are currently on the team now will enter the portal. And we know a lot did. I think it was something like 25 players last year entered the portal after the season.
Yeah, and this it's bad because all the negative talk and all that sort of thing. That makes it rough on recruiting. If you're a kid trying to figure out where you're going to go and you're hearing everybody wanting to fire the coach and that sort of thing, and you think he may get fired, you're going to second guess going there. I mean, you're going to think about that a little bit, and that makes it tough on recruiting. And also the portal. I mean, Neil Brown's in there trying to get guys to come out of the portal, and those guys in the back of their mind saying, well, you're not even going to be here. Why would I come there? So it really puts everybody in a tough situation. So, I just, and I've said this all along, if they're going to fire Neil Brown, they need to do it for, next Saturday night, after the game is over, even if we're in a bowl game. They need to go ahead and do it if they're going to do it. I'm not saying they are, or I want them to, or anything like that. But if they are going to, I think they need to go ahead and do it.
Yeah. I like what Brian's saying here. Great win. In fact, I was talking with a former player today who was on his way to the game and said that's one of the reasons I wanted to come up, just to honor the seniors. Like he said, he could remember his senior year. We really need our defensive line. You got to put pressure on the quarterback. That's extremely important. Any place, anytime, but I think is critical for us. That helps, as Greg has said repeatedly, it's true, it helps the backside. And we can analyze Neil at a later time and date. And we were talking about this earlier during the pregame show and a little bit on Wednesday. The way institutions like West Virginia work, I don't think there is a smoke-filled room. I think the administration knows what they want to do. I think they have a pretty good idea of what they want to do, how they want to do it, when they want to do it, et cetera, and they're going to implement it. I mean, and the reason I say that is that the way they handled the Bob Huggins situation, that was not anything other than a classic example of how institution handles a crisis that happens to be a coach or any employee, and they stuck with it. Boom, 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 and So I think Brian's right. You see, we got another one here, Greg. What do you think on this one?
O-line will be mid-grade, depending on who hits the port. D-line is a rebuild. Secondary has been a rebuild since Penn State game. Yeah, that's true. The O-line, if they can keep them together, the O-line might be okay. Again, these backups have got a lot of playing time this year, and so they've gotten some experience. The D-line, definitely a rebuild with the class as it is. And then the secondary, of course, been a rebuild since the Penn State game. Yeah, he's tried. We'll give him credit for that. He's tried everything back there. He's tried a ton of players, trying to figure out who can play and who can't. And, coming into the season, I think we thought that the secondary was going to be one of our strengths. And after we've seen the way some of them play, it's just hadn't been there. And he's tried a ton of people back there. But again, and I'm going to stick to this, I don't know that, I'm right or anything, but I'm sticking to this, and that is that it's not necessarily a talent thing back here. I think there may be a couple that the talent level is not quite there, but I think for the most part, it's confusion, missed assignments, missed tackles, etc. That's killed our secondary. And, I don't think the coaches have enough confidence to, just line them up straight man to man and let them play, which is the simplest thing to do, but I don't think they're capable of that probably. But yeah, that's a rebuild. We've got to get some linemen, defensive linemen, probably some offensive linemen, definitely some secondary help. And Frank, one of the things, and I know that you just can't go out and pluck this out of the air, but I think we really need to try and find some speed somewhere. We just have such a lack of speed at every position. We don't have, we don't have an explosive receiver that can get open. We don't have a running back that can break one for 50 yards. That's fast enough to outrun anybody. Our defense, if you watch and you watch players, specific players on specific plays, you'll see them chasing and losing ground and out of position, never able to catch up. We just don't seem to have the speed that these other teams have. And I think he probably needs to look at that a little bit. Like I said, I know that's not the easiest thing the world to do. Let's go out and find some fast players. That's easier said than done. But I think that's a weakness for us. I think our speed is a weakness, and we're going to have some rebuilding to do. That's for sure.
That's right. Hey, by the way, we did this a couple of weeks ago. I just pulled up on my handheld rivals.com, and this is as of today. West Virginia has 21, not signed necessarily, but 21 recruits that have said they're coming to West Virginia. 21. We're ranked 33rd in the country, third in the Big 12. Let me see. Let me go back to I think Baylor and TCU are ahead of us. And that's pretty much been its way for the last month. But this is something that I hadn't paid much attention to. Who are they recruiting? What positions? Heavy on the defensive line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defensive ends out of 21. You've got 1, 2, 2 linebackers, defensive backs. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So think about that. I mean, you've got 5 defensive backs, 5 defensive ends. They're going heavily on the off the defensive side. In fact, of the 21 guys that are listed here, how many are offense? They've got wide receiver. That's 1. You've got a athlete. Not sure where that person will play. An offensive lineman. That's 2. Another offensive lineman. That's 3. A quarterback and a wide receiver. 5. 5 on offense, and then I just mentioned 10 on defense with respect to the lot, just the defensive line and the defensive back. So they're going, at least with respect to the recruiting at high school, it's clearly they're targeting the defense. No question about it.
Oh yeah, no question. And
we need that help.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, as you watch our team play, I mean, you can clearly see where the weaknesses are. And offensively, you got your quarterback already there, so you're set there. You got a couple receivers that are decent that'll be there, so you don't have to worry a ton about those spots. And our offensive line, most of them are back. So yeah, the defense obviously is the weakness on our team,
Mm-hmm.
or will be after graduation, after transfers out. And like we've talked, our defensive line struggle to get pressure on the quarterback. Our linebackers are a little bit slow, and our defense can't cover me, our defensive secondary. So got some work to do back there. And again, I'm not saying those guys, not criticizing those guys. I don't.
No, I understand.
I think there's plenty of talent back here. I just think
Yes.
it's too complicated for them sometimes, and I think they get lost.
Yeah, I think a lot of us really hyped up the DBs that came from Northwestern. Northwestern had a good year last year. That was really going to help. It's going to help the loss of Beanie Bishop. Mark Parsons said he's predicting 52-50, but he's completely non-committal when it comes to who has what.
Who has 52 and who has 50?
Yeah, it's probably when you think about it. That's it's that. Well, that's pretty much average, I guess. That's true. That's crazy. That's crazy. Well, it's after the hour.
Yep. Flew by.
Let me pull up some stuff here.
Always goes by fast whenever we win. The talk is so much more pleasant. And Frank, I know you got a few things there you wanted to get on before we go off the air, so we'll stick around for that.
Yeah, let's do this, and we'll talk about who's our guest. But let's also bring everybody up to date. There were double basketball, and they were blowouts. The women beat Lafayette Friday night by 70 points. How would you like to be a Lafayette Leopard? They play High Point down in Fort Myers this Friday. You can watch that. No, I don't think it's going to be on ESPN. You can't. And then the 3-1 men, they beat Iona, also blew them out 43 points. Next up is Gonzaga next Wednesday at 2:30 on national TV. So let's keep our fingers crossed with respect to the basketball teams. That women's team looks really good. And then the men's soccer. I don't know how to describe it. I don't want to say they got screwed, but they didn't, even though they won and you and I talked about this, Craig, even though they won the Sun Belt regular season and the Sun Belt tournament, they weren't identified in the top 16 seeds. They got a first home game. They played North Florida on Thursday and won 2-1. Now they got to go over to Virginia, which is an 11 seed, which means it's a lower seed. They only
Yep.
seed the top 16.
Yep.
On Sunday at 5 p.m. on ESPN, I don't know how many soccer fans there are out there, but that should be a very interesting. It's a good team. 13-1-7. They're ranked 10th in the country before they made their seeds, so that'll be something.
Yeah.
And
There's soccer.
They play well.
I'm sorry, the soccer, the standings and the rankings and all that, very confusing. And I heard a discussion about it on the radio the other night. I think basically what they were saying was a lot of it was based on strength of schedule and that kind of stuff. Because if I'm not mistaken, we beat Marshall, won the Sun Belt Conference, but Marshall was still higher than us, I think is what they said, or somebody. It may have not been Marshall, but it was somebody that was higher. Ranked higher seated than we were, that we had beaten and then won the conference. So it's kind of strange the way they, the way they rank teams and that sort of thing and seed them and that kind of stuff. But it's my understanding that the strength of schedule has a lot to do with it, but which I don't know. I don't pay enough attention to soccer to really know.
Yeah.
Neither do I.
No, you're right. Well, this is great. Yeah, that's right. This is great. WVU fan 13 is gonna be at the game, and that's root on the Mountaineers, and then. Our friend, person Mark Rogers, good friend of Jackson, a good friend of all of us. We want to do this first of all to say, if you want a really good book, Mark has a new book out. It's a history book that looks at disputed national champions before there was a college football playoff in the 90s, and should these teams have been really crowned national champions. And it's untold stories about the 1990s. There it is. He's got it right there. My God, that's beautiful. Thank you for doing that. And it's very reasonably priced. Actually, it's less money than my book. Any rate, it's a good book. You can get it online. Go to your local stores, and it's available in electronic and paperback versions. And also, Mark. The other day asked me to promote various channels on our network. And one of the things that we talked about was the Ole Miss network. Their shows on Wednesday at 2 p.m. They've got a post-game show. They're probably crying tonight because of the loss. And then Mark has his own football show Thursday, Friday, Saturday post-game. A late night show, and strongly recommend the Sunday 11 a.m. Eastern time. And you can get that by just going to the Voice of College Football Network and just check out Mark. He's a pro, worked at ESPN for years. Right, Jackson, he really knows his stuff.
Oh yeah. And I can tell you right now, this is the go-to book to get this holiday season, this Christmas season, especially for the college football fan in your life. And you'll be learning about what happened in the 90s, how the decade changed sport, why the championship results should be questioned, how to correctly think through the scenarios, and you appreciate the accomplishments of teams that were not recognized as champions. This book provides an in-depth analysis of the changes, controversies, outcomes that defined a decade of college football. Grab your copy now, and let's get Ole Miss at the Voice College Football to 1,000 subs. Tell your friends, your family, and the cashiers at Publix about the magic that Ruby Dwyer and Leanne Herring bring every Wednesday afternoon at 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Ole Miss Live with Mark Rogers on Ole Miss at the Voice of College Football. And Leanne brings enormous amounts of magic on the Ole Miss post-game show every week after every Ole Miss game. So if you want top-notch Ole Miss coverage, go to Ole Miss at the Voice College Football, and let's get this. Let's get it to thousands and thousands of subs. Let's get it there. And you can come on in and troll Ole Miss a little bit. Just have some fun with them about what happened today against Florida. Anything. They don't care that you're an Ole Miss fan or Mississippi State fan. They want all kinds of fans there. They need you want top notch Ole Miss content. Go to Ole Miss at the Voice College Football. And like Frank said, check out the post game show for Week 13 on tonight's edition of the Voice College Football from Mark Rogers. Stay tuned.
Boy, I'll tell you.
Hey, Frank, he didn't even need a teleprompter.
I know what I did. I just said, "Hey, I have to go before a judge on Wednesday. Jackson, I'll pay for you. You fly up to Michigan and you make that opening statement. You can make the same opening statement. I think they'll let me out.
I guarantee you. He ought to be a used car salesman, man.
Email Mark at Mark Rogers for any Pittsburgh people that you recommend. Let him know, and he will get to you on that West Virginia Fan 13.
Yeah,
and also email TJ Ronan for your recommendations as well.
Is there a Pitt channel right now? I don't believe there's a Penn State.
Not yet.
Not yet. That's what I thought. Yeah, I didn't
think
there was.
The voice of college football is expanding. We're going to get all the Power 4 teams.
Pitt only has 7 fans.
This is like Pokemon.
It's kind of hard to sustain a channel when you don't have but 10 people that like you.
I'll tell you right now, Coach. This is like Pokemon. We're going to catch them all.
That's right. Yeah, and I'm just kidding about the fans. There's at least 13 of them.
Yeah, I know.
I can't stop.
Yeah,
can't stop.
Yeah.
Yep. Good. Good stuff.
No, that's all right. He's doing it. You're not trolling. You're kidding me? That's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Let's also talk about the who we have next week because it.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. This name isn't necessarily well known because he played back in the 70s, but we're going to have Andy Peters with us. I'll tell you what, I've had a chance to get to know him a bit. Both Greg and I have been reading the history of this guy. This guy was a first-rate, talk about defensive end, back in the 70s. Started with Bobby Bowden, was recruited with the Bowden coaching staff, and then he and played in the 75 Peach Bowl. A really solid defense player, and has had a phenomenal career. And I didn't realize this. He sent me a photo today, Greg. We'll put it up Wednesday. His photo is over in the Hall of Fame area because of his accomplishments after he left West Virginia. He is in the business field, and this guy is just top drawer. And we're just going to we thank Mark Parsons for recommending him, and I think he's going to be a terrific guest next Wednesday night, 7:00, as always. Mountaineer Locker Room. Then and now.
Yep, that's going to be another good one, and we've had some good ones, and thanks to our buddies Mark and Mike, we continue to have some premier guests on, so that's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to that Wednesday night. Jackson, anything before we sign off?
I will say, though, tune in Wednesday night for another exciting edition of the Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now, all right here on West Virginia at the Voice of College Football. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss it.
Man, he's a commercial waiting to happen. Hey,
I watched a lot of VHS promos, especially the Disney ones, and I can tell you right now, they came in handy.
Yeah. Well, Jackson, I'll just tell you the same thing I told Mike Dunlap. If we had a payroll, we'd put you on it. So there you go. That's
yeah, and Greg had a chance to talk with Mike yesterday. He had a fall at home, had surgery today. We wish him the best. We mentioned that during the pregame show. We'll mention it. And thank you, Jackson, for stepping in always. And but Mike, hopefully he'll be out of the hospital, I think maybe Tuesday or so, and we should have him back next week. So.
Yep, hope so. We're looking forward to that.
Help out, gentlemen.
All right, well, Jackson, we appreciate you more than you know. You got great insight and the way you keep up with it. Now we know that you're an excellent spokesperson as well. So when we get ready to start selling some snake oil, we'll call you again. But we surely do appreciate you, no doubt. And of course, Mike and Mark, both. We want to reach out and thank those guys every time we have a show because. Pretty much they make our shows with the guests that they get lined up for. So there they are. There's the two culprits right there. It's our partners in crime, Mike Dunlap, Mark Parsons. Yep. So we appreciate those guys. Again, we're hoping for Mike's speedy recovery. I'll be in touch with him again middle of the week here. Maybe by Wednesday night, I'll have something I can let you know about him on Wednesday. And we look forward to bringing you the Mountaineer Locker Room on Wednesday night. Then and now we'll be on at 7:00. Get your Thanksgiving vacation started off right. Tune in and give us a look. And We appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight to the post-game show. Tickled to death for the Mountaineer victory, and it's always easier to do a post-game show when you win the game. It makes it a lot easier. So we thank all of you for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you again on Wednesday night. Good night, everybody.